Okay, so now we're going to be talking about Chapter 9, Social Media and Storytelling. And there aren't going to be a lot of fancy images for this particular video. I want you to pull out your book and follow along and write in the margins as I talk and take notes. So I don't want you to be distracted, okay? So on the very first page of Chapter 9, Miller points out that by 2013, Americans were already spending an average of 16 minutes on social media out of every hour that they are online. And I am positive that for your age group that average is probably even higher. So it shows that social media, we're spending so much time on it that it's become an important way for people who want to grab our attention to leverage this platform, or I'm sorry, these types of platforms that fall under the umbrella of social media. And you might have been surprised as you already read through the chapter, because you should have already read this once, so that this is not new information to you, and you're fitting it in, you're fitting my comments into Miller's grander argument. So if you have not read it yet, push pause and go read the chapter and then come back to us. Okay. So, apparently, that a lot of people are talking, we spend so much time online, we spend so much time on social media, that we're actually suffering from info dementia, or our brains are getting fatigued by the amount of information that we're constantly consuming, that this is a problem. Miller doesn't exactly focus on that particular aspect of our attention to online media, but she does talk about Facebook fatigue. She says that even though Twitter is growing in popularity with teens, that teens are moving away from Facebook. What I have found over the years teaching this class and teaching other classes about digital media is that actually Facebook still remains the most ubiquitous social account that everyone has. The difference is, I think, from my own, interaction with coastal students and talking to them about their social media accounts, is that Facebook, everyone has one because you have to in order to communicate with various generations and all of your various friends. But that's not necessarily where you guys really feel like you divulge a lot of information about yourself. In other words, it's like a common portal that we all share. You have to have it so that you can have Messenger, so that you can keep up with Grandma and Aunt Bessie and, your friend from kindergarten that you don't really talk to. But then there are a lot of other social media platforms that you might gravitate towards for your more personal interests. And, especially like Twitter, which is popular with teens, African Americans, and businesses. Those are the three largest demographics that gravitate towards Twitter. And then also Reddit is very popular with disgruntled men and teens. And then also we have got Tumblr. She mentions Vine, which is kind of gone by now. Snapchat. She also, throughout this chapter brings up a lot of other social media sites, and I'm sure you're mentally listing a bunch of them right now in your head. There's so many of them out there, and the ones that you use are very personal probably to you. You're probably mildly upset with me right now that I didn't mention one of them, but I'm not going to spend my time listing them. We're going to talk about them more in the future, and I'm going to be very interested in learning from you which social media sites you use, but that is another conversation. So basically she lists 4 reasons that we are drawn to social media sites. One is fluff content. I know that's a big reason why I go to social media sites. I go there as a break from, sort of I don't want to say the drudgery, but all of the important things I have to do in my own life. When I want to take a break from all of those important things, I will turn to social media just to have a laugh and to look at a cat video or something of the such. Also, number 2 is to disseminate news. There's been a lot of information about this in the mainstream news, painting social media news outlets as in a negative light for disseminating news. But in large part, that's probably because they're angered over the fact that social media we're turning to it as a way of spreading independently outside of mainstream news sources the news that we are interested in. And that's good and bad. It shows that we have an invested interest in our news, but it also tends to create quite skewed representations of what is actually newsworthy. So we do have to be careful about using social media as our one and only news resource. And then 3 is social media is used to organize people, especially around political and social issues. And then finally 4, this is a negative thing, cyberbullying. And cyberbullying is a whole nother Pandora's box of information that we could talk about, but it is an unfortunate, as part of the unfortunate underbelly of social media, is that it's not all just bonding and light commentary and organizing people behind what they believe in, but it's also a place that, of course, people can lash out, unfortunately, against others. So those are the 4 main reasons why people turn to social media. But what Miller wants us to turn our attention to is the way in which social media is being used to tell fiction and non-fictional stories. Now, what's interesting about social media, I've talked about this before, and we see it in the Guild, is that because of the frontality of the standard of frontality and direct address within vlogging and web series, is that this first-person narrator that we have, people tend to have a hard time differentiating fiction from non-fictional stories. Even if you tell yourself over and over again, this is a fictional story, this is a fictional story, we tend to identify the characters as being real people. And that the actor or the actress is actually talking for his or her own personal experience. And so we do need to watch out for that. She talks about that on page 149 under characters on social media header. Okay, so do make note of that. Then she's got some really interesting sort of stories that she talks about where dogs can tweet and things along those lines. Then she delves into some really nice, I think, extensive explorations of particularly salient examples of digital storytelling that has been successful. So I do want to make sure that you spend some time reading through pages 152 through 155, because I think those are particularly illustrative on ways in which different kinds of narratives that are seeking different types of audiences will choose to use various social platforms in order to reach those specific audiences. And I want you to be thinking about that, especially as you head into your assignment for this week and also our larger final project that you're going to be learning more and more about every week here coming up, is how can social media be used strategically, and how is it used strategically when trying to reach very particular audiences? And so she cautions us against only going for, the top 3 social platforms when thinking about how to build a narrative or thinking about which platforms a narrative should use. And instead, think about which specific kinds of platforms can be used to reach certain types of audiences. For example, even though I am a middle-aged mom, I should be the perfect demographic for Pinterest. I hate Pinterest. But nevertheless, if I were going to build a narrative where I wanted to reach an audience of middle-class moms, I would absolutely have to integrate Pinterest. And there's a lot of good things about Pinterest. If you're a Pinterest user and you now hate me, know that there are a lot of good things about Pinterest, but I really think that it puts too much onus on the user to sort of really learn Pinterest's specific setup, that it is not user friendly, in other words. And I've been on and off of it for years. I don't like it. It's too much work. But that doesn't mean there's anything inherently wrong with Pinterest. It just means I'm not their ideal user. And so this particular example, I'm not telling you to sort of turn the spotlight on me, but to draw attention to how I understand that my demographics their interests and what they want to use might differ from my own. So we do need to keep that in mind. Now, after you've gone through and read through the examples very carefully, again, those of you who are gamers, you're going to find some interesting examples in there. Those of you who are Twitter users, interesting examples. Those of you that are really interested in YouTube, again, some interesting examples. Even if you're not interested in those particular platforms, read the examples. They're going to really help you as we move along. So don't just gloss over them. And they might show up on the quiz. Hint, hint. So, in conclusion, we'll see on page 58 some really helpful bullet points. Refer to those after you finish the chapter, after you finish this video, to kind of go back and reemphasize what it is that you should be taking away from this chapter. So, again, our textbook is Digital Storytelling, A Creator's Guide to Interactive Entertainment. And up to here, we've been really getting a lot of background information about how other people have used digital media in order to tell stories. As we're moving forward, we're going to start thinking about how we ourselves can use digital media in order to tell specific stories. And so you're going to be wanting to pay attention. Under the conclusion, she's got a bullet list of a few things to keep in mind for using social media as a storytelling device. So you have to think about which ones your characters would be likely to use. You also have to write according to the conventions of a particular form. So you'll write differently for a Twitter post than you would for a Facebook post. Twitter posts tend to be more concise. They have gone from 140 characters to I think it's 280 now. But, the ats and the handles and the hashtags are all really important on Twitter and are kind of used in Facebook, but virtually meaningless. Facebook tends to be more of a place to tell stories or to tell little witty narratives and to gather feedback, as opposed to Twitter is more of a place where you're trying to spread information. So each one has a different way that you write. Also remember that social media is less well known, can be perfect for your piece. So be thinking about social media platforms that maybe only have a small niche group. And so you're going to want to carefully consider which one will work best for your piece of fiction that you're thinking about. And also you have to make sure that when you're writing for social media that you usually are trying to take advantage of social media's special effect in that users can interact with you, that they can talk back. So it is a special place, not just to say, hey, I want to say something, but to try to generate conversations of some sort. We all know somebody who goes on social media platforms and just yells into the bottomless pit about things that they're interested in and are not conversational in any manner. And they tend to be, they tend to turn off people a lot, and then they end up getting unfollowed and silenced. So you do want to think about that as you're writing for social media. Keep these tips in mind for your homework assignment, which is now currently up on the Moodle site. The quiz will be forthcoming, and so be keeping your eyes open for that as well. Good luck. And don't forget to post questions in the forum if you have any questions. That is a place for you guys to utilize. Use it.